What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Iron Digital. I'm your host D Wills here, and in today's video I'm going to be going over this short article on the Daily Hodl about Charles Hoskinson and his response to the Cardano critics. So let's get into this real quick. Cardano founder and IOHK CEO Charles Hoskinson is responding to critics of the blockchain platform and its native crypto asset ADA. Ethereum advocate and owner of This Week and Ethereum Evan Van Ness recently scrutinized the number of transactions settled on the Cardano network relative to its market cap. Do people realize that Cardano barely does 20,000 transactions per day? Yet ADA has a valuation of $63 billion despite zero traction a full 5 years after its initial coin offering. That's 1.93 million in valuation per daily transaction. A pseudonymous crypto account called Undervalued Cryptos retweeted a set of predictions that Hoskinson made nearly a year ago and claimed that one of Hoskinson's predictions have materialized. Okay, so IOHK Charles predicted this a year back. Update: no asset on ADA. Forget thousands of dApps. Not a single dApp on ADA. Only 1 or 2 projects announced working on ADA. IOHK Charles, what happened to your predictions? What's the prediction for next 1 year now? Or you could just say next year now. This time next year, I predict there will be hundreds of assets running on Cardano, thousands of dApps, tons of interesting projects, and lots of unique use and utility. 2021 is going to be so much fun watching Cardano grow and evolve. The community is definitely ready to innovate. Okay, so he obviously probably wrote that in 2020. Let's see. To be honest, we actually have that kind of traction. There are tens of thousands of assets, over $10 million of NFTs I think have been sold. It were counted correctly throughout the Cardano network. All things considered, the ecosystem is quite healthy and viable, and since that time of the prediction last year, we've seen a tripling of the population size of Cardano and obviously a lot of value accumulation as well. We're the #1 staked network in the entire space, #1 for commits. Those who levy criticism at this project are either misinformed or malicious at this point. Cardano remains one of the fastest growing, most stable, most mature and systematic of cryptocurrency projects, and we remain one of the top mentioned on every social metric in our industry. Okay, I'll stop reading it there. First off, I'll start by saying that I am an investor in Cardano. I bought Cardano when it was around 3 cents all the way up to somewhere around 12 cents, I believe. And I'm still bullish right now on the project, but I'll try to be unbiased as I get into this and try to be objective as I can, right? So I think the Cardano is definitely a good project. It has some good technology, but Cardano does have some problems right now, They've been taking pretty long to come out with the smart contracts that'll really allow them to compete with Ethereum at that level. So as of today, Cardano is not an Ethereum killer. I understand that that's what the narrative in this community is, that Cardano is the Ethereum killer. There's always a new one every year. It's not. It has the potential to be as they continue to improve, but as of today, it is not an Ethereum killer. Now, I want to go back to what Evan Van Ness said about the 20,000 transactions per day. Let's see. Yeah, so he says, do people realize that Cardano barely does 20,000 transactions per day? Now, 20,000 transactions per day is definitely not enough to maintain the yield that they currently pay out at 6.4%. And I believe on this site, stakingrewards.com, says it right here, 6.44% reward, APY. Now they have $31 billion is staked out of a $43 billion market cap. So 70% is staked. You can see that they're #1. Now, before people chop my head off, I do understand that the rest of the yield is coming from the treasury, right? So I'm not oblivious to that, but I just at least have to mention that, the transactions is not enough to maintain the yield, because it's not as of right now. Now, for those of you who don't know how Cardano staking works, I'll try to do a compressed version real quick. Cardano, it uses the proof of stake consensus mechanism, and with that, you can stake your coins and join a validator pool if you don't have enough ADA to validate transactions that happen on the chain. Now, validators and stakeholders earn staking rewards by transaction fees and by the virtual pot, aka the treasury, or it might just be considered the virtual pot. The system is set up to be where you don't get 100% of the transaction fees. You'll get, usually there's a certain percent. I believe it's about 80% of the transaction fees go to staking rewards, and then the other 20% goes back into the reserve pot or the treasury. And I'll go to the Cardano monetary policy area on their website where you can actually see it. It says, hold on, where am I at? Staking rewards for delegators and stake pool operators come from two sources: transaction fees from every transaction from all blocks produced during every epoch going to a virtual pot. A fixed percentage of the remaining ADA reserves is added to that pot. Now, for monetary expansion, a certain percentage of the pot is sent to the treasury and the rest is used as epoch rewards. The system is designed to ensure that the portion of rewards taken from the reserves is high at the beginning. When transaction numbers are still relatively low, this incentivizes early adopters to move quickly to benefit from high initial rewards. Over time, and as the number of transactions increases, additional fees will compensate for smaller reserves. The treasury or the virtual pot, I use them interchangeably. You got to forgive me if I'm using it wrong. But in the treasury or the virtual pot, there's about 13 billion ADA in there right now. Okay. Now, in the circulating supply of what's actually circulating for ADA right now is about 32 billion. It's hard capped at 45 billion. That's where we get the 13 billion that's in the treasury right now. And this is where, as on their monetary policy, this is where majority of them are getting their yield at, because the transactions per day is very, very low. It's not enough to sustain the yield that they pay out, but it's also built into it to compensate for that. So long term, it's definitely not that big of a deal, right? Because it's built into it, but eventually it is the pot runs dry eventually, right? It's just that it's going to be a very long eventually, because the way it's set up, the 13 billion that's held up in there right now is going to be released over, like, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 years. That's really dependent on there's a lot of different factors that's dependent on, but transactions being one of them. So ultimately, Cardano, it does have enough in the treasury to last them for a while if the transactions don't pick up. But if they take too long, another chain like a Solana or Polkadot can possibly win some of their community and market share, which would tank Cardano's price. You know what I mean? So even though they can sustain themselves right now, they're on borrowed time, which is good. It doesn't matter if you're getting good yield on an asset that's price is tanking because it's losing its position to, other chains just coming to the market. This is a real reality of the situation. Solana, Polkadot, other chains out there, they're not going to just stay on pause so that Cardano can have enough time to get its tech together or to release its smart contracts. They have to put something out there. And the reason to bring this stuff up about, how the stakers earn their rewards from the transaction fees and from the reserve pot is to let you know that eventually they're going to have to get to where activity comes to the chain, because that's where you receive your transaction fees. If the activity doesn't increase, if they don't get smart contracts or something soon, which I believe they will get soon, because like I said, they have enough time to buy them, to stall them for a pretty long time with the way their system is set up. But again, it's still worth mentioning that if you don't bring something to market faster, other chains are going to come in and dominate and push you out of the market. That's the bigger concern. So it doesn't matter if you're earning yield on something that's going down in price, because you're taking too long to bring something to market. People need to receive more than what they're receiving right now. The smart contracts has to get here. We will see in August what happens, but again, just got to be realistic. You know, I'm a fan of Cardano. I do believe eventually they're going to get through this hiccup or problem or whatever you want to call it. They'll get through it eventually. That's what I believe. That's why I'm still with them at this point. But as an investor, I at least have to be realistic. I can't be led by just emotion. I have to look at what it is, and this is a clear reality. Now you have a lot of people that are in the space that are not being led by that, just because a lot of people in the community, they just like this cult like nature with everyone in the community, where it's like my coin is better than your coin and this against that, and that kind of stuff gets annoying, but it's a part of the game. I mean, you got a lot of amateurs in the space, so it's here. I mean, yeah, I don't like dealing with it, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? It's a whole lot of things that I don't like, but I'll save that for another video. Ultimately, I think the Cardano will fix some of these problems, but just be mindful that eventually Cardano has to deliver. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, take a look at some of the other content. I'll talk to you guys soon. Take it easy. Peace.